All right, so when we left off in lesson 4, we had just run our 3 different regression estimates, and we also did some tests of normality and some other things. So we should have a regression output that looks something like this. What we're going to do now is we're going to complete an appendix that is associated with the regression assumptions. In order for us to make strong inferences and robustly reject the null hypothesis, we have to meet some underlying assumptions of the models. And so one of the lessons that we need to learn is how to evaluate the different parts of regression models. And so we're going to do that in the form of an appendix. Now, an appendix is something, and I gave you this table or this template for your appendix, that it's something that you probably need to figure out. If you're going to do any kind of publication or do any kind of research these days, you have to put a lot of documentation in appendices because they're making our page space available for publication of articles and everything else ever shorter. And so what happens is we write ever shorter manuscripts, but we write ever longer supplemental appendices. And so this is an example of how to do one. Before I get into kind of walking through and showing you what parts of the regression output go where, I also wanted to spend just a little bit of time on the idea of using Word, because there seems to be a lot of confusion on format and content and using tables and everything else. And so that is something that we need to address. I should have done it earlier. I'm going to, when I pick up the regression, or when I pick up the resource design class in the fall, it's the first thing I'm going to have you guys do is working with Word and doing tables and making sure that you understand how to format things, because people just kind of keep going through and they never learn this stuff, and it's actually pretty important. One of the first things I want to show you is really simple, but it's actually important for you to be able to tell whether you're editing stuff correctly or not. And it's this simple little paragraph marker that you can find in Word. This is a macro, this is a Mac product, so it's up on this column, but somewhere in your PC environment you'll see the same thing. And all it does is show non-printing characters. And so it'll show you your paragraph entries, it'll show you all the different returns that exist in your tables, right? It'll also show you important things like, I don't think I have any in here at the moment, but it'll show you things such as section and page breaks, which are really important. So let me show you an example of a page break. Say this particular table would run over 2 different spots. So say, I'm just going to put some in. So look here, maybe I've got content, something along these lines, and this table is running across both ones. All I do is I go to the paragraph marker before the table and I go up to Insert, Break, and I can either put a page break in or a section break. The section break is actually important for later, because if you want to make things landscape or portrait, you need to put section breaks in, because then you'll be able to go in and change the layout in the section. And so let me just put in, I'll show you how to do that real quick. So I'll put in a page break here, insert a section break, and so that puts, I'll put on there and I'll delete that one. That puts my table on this separate page. So maybe I want to put this on a landscape instead of the other. Well, what I did is I put a section break up here, I put a section break here. This is in its own section, so when I go here I can click on layout and then I can change the orientation to landscape. And so once this one's back, it goes back, it only changes landscape for this one particular area. But that's how we do things. And so notice when you have this show markers, it tells you where the section breaks or the page breaks are. And so when you guys start writing, you just need to start writing with showing you all the characters, because that allows you to understand how you're formatting the document. So let's delete that. We don't really need any of it. And I'm just going to go through and change that. Of course, it always changed my orientation. Let's go back to portrait, and I'm going to change this. So that's one that we need to worry about. The other one that you need to worry about is, let's go through and do kind of paragraph settings. you go up here, format paragraph, this is where you kind of tell it indent, left or right indents, spaces before and after, single or double space, special hanging indents, all this kind of stuff. Line and page breaks, that's not really all that important, but you can do tabs here. I always do tab sets at 0.25 because it gives you a little bit better, right? A little bit more kind of margins to work with, and so those are important things to understand as well. The other thing that we can do here is hyphenation. I always, because we have short space limits for publication, one of the important things that you have to do is you have to hyphenate. And so I always go in here and automatically hyphenate the document. When you have it block justified like this, right? So I'll show you how to block justify. If you go here, it's in block. If here you go left, right? But we just changed it back to justify. A combination of block justify and hyphenation gives you the most ability to put content into pages. And so those things are really important when you're trying to fit into small page limits. One other thing that's really important is in these last couple of assignments, I've given them to you in Word document form. I do that because I've already given you tables and plots, and I'm giving you them as templates. So all you have to do is copy and paste what I've given you into another document and complete it, right? And so this is simple, and it just saves you guys so much work. So let's go through. First thing, all you do is go to the document. If you're going to use this descriptive statistics table, go in, right-click it, and copy it, right? And then go File, New Blank Document, and it's going to create another one. Now, this new document's always going to be in a little bit different format. I can tell by looking at it that this one's a little bit wide, so I'll go make that 1-inch margins, right? And then I'll check the Times New Roman 12. That's fine. That's what I had it in before. And so I'm at that point, and all I can do is paste it. And I've got it, right? And so all I have to do is go through here, function, delete these cells, and then enter them in. And notice here, too, that I've got these aligned in a certain way so that the values show up correctly. When you're working with tables, you want to set the table properties in certain ways. And so if you go in here, you go under Options, this table is set at 0.05 cell margins on bottom, top, bottom, left, and right. In these areas where you want to do actual word number values, I always make them different. So you go into cell alignment. You can change those in cell alignment here. So I always want to align those right. Align center right. Okay. And then what I'll do is I'll go in and I'll hit table properties, and I'll hit options. And I'll, underneath the cells, it'll say, okay, left, right. And so maybe I want to set those at 25, quarter an inch, right? Because that gets the numbers off the edge, and it gets them on in the same spot. So here I go 0.00, right? They all look about right. And 0.01, right? Something like that. Probably don't need that. But that's also what we do. I don't want that 0 there. But that allows us to align this columns with whatever. And again, you just select the cells that you want. And when you right click them, you can set cell alignment. You can go to table properties and go under options, and you can do the right, left space. Or if you want to make it back to the same, you can make it back to the same as the whole table, which was 0.05. Okay. These are all important things that we kind of need to learn to do if you need to format stuff correctly. And so as you're putting together your final product, we're bringing all this stuff together. Remember these different things. But again, the absolute most important one is make sure you got your paragraph marks in there, because if you're just working with a document and you don't have those in, you don't even know what the program's been told to do, right? And so you don't know where the space markers are. So you have to put this in. When I'm sending your documents back to them, I always have that function clicked because I want you to show that. You need to start working with and using those paragraph markers and being comfortable with them, because it'll make your editing better. Okay, good. Now let's go to the completion of the appendix document. I'll show you how to copy and paste some stuff over in there real quick.